I walked into the Christmas brunch with my son. My mom rolled her eyes and said, "Wish you'd asked before showing up." My son whispered, "Should we go, Papa?" I nodded. We left without a scene. But after 2 days, my phone was exploding with pleas for help. The drive home from my mother's house took 17 minutes. Lucas sat in the passenger seat, his small hands folded in his lap, staring out the window at the holiday decorations blurring past. He was 8 years old and already learning lessons no kid should have to learn. "Papa?" His voice was quiet. "Did we do something wrong?" I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "No, buddy. We didn't do anything wrong." "Then why didn't Grandma want us there?" How do you explain to a child that his grandmother has chosen her new husband's family over her own grandson? That she's decided blood means less than convenience? I've been asking myself these questions for 6 months, ever since Mom married Gerald Pritchard and absorbed his entire world like it was the only one that mattered. "Sometimes adults make decisions that don't make sense," I said finally. "But that's on them, not us." Lucas nodded, but I could see the hurt in his eyes. The same hurt I'd been carrying since my wife Sarah died 3 years ago. Mom had been supportive at first, helping with Lucas while I figured out how to be a single father. Then she met Gerald at some community center event, and everything shifted. Suddenly her calendar filled with his kids' birthdays, his grandchildren's recitals, his family's gatherings. Our weekly dinners became monthly, then occasional, then barely existent. The Christmas brunch had been advertised on her Facebook page. A big family celebration, she'd written, complete with photos of Gerald's daughter Amanda and her 3 kids decorating cookies. When I saw the post, something twisted in my chest. We were family too. So I'd shown up, Lucas excited to see his grandmother, carrying the homemade gingerbread men we'd stayed up late baking. Her face when she opened the door told me everything. Annoyance, not joy. Inconvenience, not welcome. "Wish you'd asked before showing up, Nathan," she'd said, barely glancing at Lucas. "We're kind of in the middle of things." Behind her, I could see Gerald's family laughing around a massive dining table loaded with food. Amanda's husband was pouring mimosas. The grandkids were running around in matching pajamas. A scene of perfect holiday chaos that apparently had no room for us. Lucas had tugged my sleeve. "Should we go, Papa?" I'd nodded, unable to trust my voice. We turned and walked back to the car, the gingerbread men still in their festive tin, untouched. That was 2 days ago. Since then, I'd turned off my phone and focused on making our own Christmas special. Lucas and I watched movies, built a snowman in the backyard, and ate pizza for dinner without anyone telling us it wasn't proper holiday food. We were doing fine. Until I turned my phone back on. 47 missed calls. 32 text messages. 15 voicemails. All from my mother. The first voicemail was calm. "Nathan, please call me back. It's important." The second was urgent. "Nathan, I really need to talk to you. It's about Gerald." By the 10th, panic had set in. "Please, I'm begging you. Something terrible has happened. I need your help." I sat at the kitchen table, Lucas asleep upstairs, and listened to them all. My mother's voice progressing from controlled to desperate to something close to hysteria. Gerald had been arrested. Something about fraud. Their accounts were frozen. She needed money for a lawyer. She needed me to co-sign a loan. She needed. The irony wasn't lost on me. 2 days ago, she couldn't spare 20 minutes for her grandson. Now she needed her son to rescue her from whatever mess Gerald had created. I should have felt satisfaction. Maybe even some vindication. Instead, I just felt tired. The next morning, I called her back. "Nathan." Her relief was palpable. "Thank God. I've been trying to reach you for days." "I know. I got your messages." "Then you know what's happening. Gerald's been accused of embezzlement from his company. It's all a misunderstanding, but the legal fees alone are going to bankrupt us. The lawyer wants a $50,000 retainer, and our accounts are all frozen pending investigation. I need you to help me." I let the silence stretch out. Through the phone, I could hear her breathing, fast and shallow. "Nathan? Are you there?" "I'm here. Will you help me? Please. I'm your mother." That word. Mother. It should have meant something. Should have triggered some automatic response of loyalty and obligation. But all I could think about was Lucas's face at her door, hopeful and then crushed. "I need to think about it," I said. "Think about it?" "Nathan, I don't have time for you to think about it. The preliminary hearing is in 3 days. If we don't get proper representation, Gerald could go to prison." "Maybe he should." Her gasp was sharp. "How can you say that? He's innocent." "Is he?" Another silence, this one colder. "I can't believe you'd turn your back on me like this. After everything I've done for you." Something in me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet breaking of whatever thread had still connected us. "Everything you've done for me?" My voice was steady. Mom, you couldn't even let us stay for brunch. Your grandson was so excited to see you, and you treated him like an inconvenience. This isn't about some silly brunch. This is serious. You're right. It is serious. Which is why I need to think about whether I want to involve myself in Gerald's legal problems. He's my husband. And Lucas is your grandson. But that didn't seem to matter much on Christmas. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from anger. From something closer to grief. The mother I'd known, the one who'd read me bedtime stories and cheered at my little league games, had been disappearing for months. This phone call just made it official. She was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. Over the next week, the calls continued. Mom, then Gerald's daughter Amanda, then even some of Gerald's business associates whose names I didn't recognize. Each one had a different angle, a different appeal. Family loyalty. Christian charity. The benefit of the doubt. They were all variations on the same theme: give us money and don't ask questions. I did ask questions, though. I started researching Gerald Pritchard. What I found was illuminating. Gerald had worked as the CFO of Hartwell Manufacturing for 15 years. According to the charges, he'd been systematically diverting company funds into personal accounts for the last 3. The amount was staggering, over $2 million. The evidence included falsified invoices, hidden accounts registered in his name, and bank records showing regular transfers. I dug deeper. Gerald's first wife had divorced him 8 years ago. The public records from that divorce included allegations of financial abuse and hidden assets. His daughter Amanda's husband had filed for bankruptcy 2 years back, right around the time Gerald had bought them a house. Paid in cash. The pattern was clear. Gerald was a con artist, and my mother had been his latest mark. But here's what bothered me most: she had to know. Some part of her had to suspect that the expensive trips, the lavish gifts to his family, the lifestyle they'd been living didn't match his legitimate income. She'd chosen not to look too closely because the alternative meant admitting she'd made a mistake. Now that mistake was catching up with her, and she expected me to cushion the fall. I thought about Sarah. My wife had been practical, fiercely intelligent, and absolutely uncompromising when it came to protecting Lucas. If she were here, what would she say? Actually, I knew exactly what she'd say. She'd tell me that my first responsibility was to my son, not to a mother who'd abandoned us emotionally months ago. She'd remind me that enabling bad behavior wasn't kindness, it was cowardice. So I made a decision. I called my mother back. When she answered, her voice was hoarse from crying. Nathan, please tell me you're calling with good news. I'm not giving you money, Mom. But, let me finish. I'm not giving you money, but I'm going to help you. Just not the way you want. I don't understand. I've hired a lawyer for you. Not for Gerald, for you specifically. Her name is Patricia Chen, and she specializes in protecting spouses from their partner's financial crimes. She's going to make sure that when this all shakes out, you're not held liable for Gerald's debts or his legal fees. The silence on the other end was absolute. Mom? You hired me a divorce lawyer. Her voice was flat. I hired you a protection lawyer. What you do with that protection is up to you. But Patricia is very good at what she does. She's already started the process of legally separating your assets from Gerald's. The house you owned before you married him? That's protected. Your retirement account? Protected. Everything you brought into this marriage will still be yours when this is over. When this is over. Nathan, I love him. Then you're going to love him through a very difficult time. But you're going to do it without destroying yourself financially. He's my husband. I made vows. And you're my mother. Remember that? Remember Lucas? Your grandson who you made feel like garbage on Christmas? Her breath hitched. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Mom. But I'm done pretending that your choices don't have consequences. Patricia will contact you tomorrow. Talk to her. Listen to her. Think about Lucas for once instead of just Gerald's family. I ended the call. My heart was pounding, but I felt something I hadn't felt in months: clarity. Patricia Chen was expensive, but she was worth every penny. I'd found her through a colleague whose sister had gone through something similar. Patricia had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless in protecting her clients, and she didn't care about feelings or family loyalty. She cared about facts and law. 2 days later, Patricia called me. Your mother is resistant, she said without preamble. She's convinced that standing by Gerald is the right thing to do. Can you help her anyway? I can file the necessary paperwork to protect her assets whether she cooperates or not. But Nathan, you should know, the prosecution's case against Gerald is airtight. He's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. The money is gone. He spent it on his kids, his lifestyle, and some very questionable investments. There's no hidden account waiting to pay everyone back. Your mother is going to lose her husband and possibly her home if she doesn't let me help her. Do what you can, I said. Send me the bills. There's something else. Gerald's daughter Amanda has been trying to get your mother to refinance her house to pay for his legal defense. If she does that, she'll lose everything. Ice flooded my veins. Can you stop her? Not if she's determined. But I can make it very difficult. I've already contacted the mortgage companies and explained the situation. They're unlikely to approve anything given the pending investigation. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get uglier before it gets better. She was right. 3 days before Gerald's preliminary hearing, I got a visit from Amanda herself. She showed up at my house with her 3 kids in tow, all of them looking miserable and cold. Nathan. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Can we talk? About what? About family. About doing the right thing. She glanced meaningfully at her kids. About helping each other out in hard times. I didn't invite her in. If this is about money for Gerald's legal defense, the answer is no. Her smile vanished. Do you have any idea what you're doing to your mother? She's falling apart. She needs our support, and instead you've set some vicious lawyer on her who's trying to turn her against her own husband. Patricia isn't turning Mom against anyone. She's protecting Mom from being dragged down by Gerald's crimes. They're allegations. He hasn't been convicted of anything. The evidence is pretty damning, Amanda. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. My dad has given your mother the best year of her life. She's been happier with him than she ever was alone. And now you want to destroy that because of some accounting discrepancy? $2 million isn't a discrepancy. It's theft. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I do. I've read the indictment. All 63 pages of it. Your father created fake vendors, approved fraudulent invoices, and funneled money into accounts that he used to bankroll his lifestyle. Including, apparently, buying you a house. Her face flushed. That was a gift. It was proceeds of crime. You self-righteous piece of, she caught herself, glancing at her kids. You know what? Fine. Don't help. But when your mother loses everything, when she's alone and broke, you remember that you did this to her. I'm trying to prevent her from losing everything. You're the one trying to convince her to mortgage her house for a losing cause. He's not a losing cause. He's her husband. He's my father. And family is supposed to stick together. Then where were you on Christmas when my son needed his grandmother? That stopped her. For just a second, something like shame flickered across her face. Then it hardened into resentment. This isn't over, she said. She gathered her kids and left. I watched them drive away, my stomach churning. I didn't enjoy any of this. But I also couldn't let them manipulate my mother into financial ruin just to fund Gerald's defense. The preliminary hearing came and went. Gerald was denied bail due to flight risk and the severity of the charges. The evidence presented was even worse than the indictment suggested. Prosecutors had emails, recordings, and testimony from multiple Hartwell manufacturing employees. Gerald's lawyer tried to argue entrapment and accounting errors, but the judge wasn't buying it. Gerald was going to prison. The only question was for how long. My mother called me that night, sobbing. They're going to take everything. The prosecutor said they can seize assets purchased with stolen funds. That includes our house, our cars, everything. Mom, did you talk to Patricia? She says I can keep my original house because I owned it before the marriage and Gerald never had his name on the deed. But everything else is gone. That's something. That's your home, your stability. I don't want to go back there. That house is full of memories of your father, of being alone. Gerald gave me a fresh start. My father had died when I was 12. Mom had raised me alone, working 2 jobs to keep us afloat. She'd been strong then, resilient. Somewhere along the way, she'd forgotten she could survive on her own. You don't have to be alone, I said quietly. You have me. You have Lucas. Do I? Because it doesn't feel like it. That's your choice, Mom. I've been here the whole time. You're the one who pulled away. She hung up without responding. The next few weeks were brutal. The story hit the local news, and suddenly everyone in town knew about Gerald's arrest. My mother stopped answering her phone. Amanda posted long rants on Facebook about persecution and witch hunts. Gerald's other supporters started a legal defense fund that raised exactly $340 before someone reported it for potential fraud. Patricia worked miracles. She managed to prove that not only had my mother not benefited from Gerald's crimes, but she'd actually been financially harmed by them. Gerald had taken out credit cards in her name without her knowledge, racking up debt for his personal expenses. Patricia got those debts discharged and started the process of restoring Mom's credit. Then came the biggest revelation. Gerald had a girlfriend. Not just any girlfriend, his secretary at Hartwell Manufacturing. A 26-year-old named Brittany who drove a Mercedes that Gerald had purchased with stolen funds. When the prosecutors offered Brittany immunity in exchange for testimony, she didn't hesitate. She provided emails, text messages, and photos that painted a picture of a man who'd been living a double life for years. The worst part? Some of those photos were timestamped from my mother's wedding day. Gerald had been texting Brittany during his own wedding reception. Patricia showed my mother the evidence in her office, with me present for support. I watched my mother's face as she scrolled through messages where Gerald called Brittany baby and promised to leave the old lady once he'd secured enough money. The old lady. That's what he'd called her. Mom didn't cry. She just sat there, staring at the screen, her face completely blank. Then she looked at Patricia. File the divorce papers. Already prepared, Patricia said gently. I just need your signature. Mom signed them without another word. The transformation after that was startling. Once my mother accepted that Gerald had betrayed her completely, something shifted. The woman who'd been begging me for money to save her husband became focused and determined. She moved back into her old house and started the process of rebuilding her life. But she still didn't reach out to Lucas. I gave her space, figuring she needed time to process everything. But weeks turned into months, and the silence continued. Lucas stopped asking about his grandmother. He'd built a protective shell around that particular hurt, and I didn't know how to break through it. Meanwhile, the fallout from Gerald's case continued spreading like ripples in a pond. Amanda's husband lost his job when his employer discovered the house they lived in had been purchased with stolen money. The bank foreclosed within 3 months. Amanda tried to claim she had no idea where the money came from, but nobody believed her. Her social media presence, once filled with photos of expensive vacations and designer purchases, went completely dark. Gerald's son from his first marriage, a guy named Derek who I'd met exactly once at the wedding, reached out to me through LinkedIn. His message was short: "Thank you for protecting your mother. I wish someone had protected mine." I called him. We talked for 2 hours. Derek told me stories about growing up with Gerald as a father. The lies, the manipulation, the way Gerald would gaslight his ex-wife into doubting her own perception of reality. How he'd slowly isolated her from friends and family, convincing her that everyone else was jealous of their happiness. How he'd stolen money from her retirement account and blamed it on market crashes. He's done this before, Derek said. Multiple times. My mom wasn't the first, and your mother wasn't going to be the last. Brittany probably isn't even the only girlfriend. There's likely a whole pattern we don't know about yet. Why didn't you warn my mother? I asked, trying to keep accusation out of my voice. I tried. Sent her a Facebook message before the wedding. She blocked me. Amanda told her I was bitter about the divorce and trying to ruin their father's happiness. Your mom believed them. I'm sorry. Don't be. You did what I couldn't do for my own mother. You stepped in before he destroyed her completely. My mom lost her house, her savings, everything. She's living with my sister now, working retail at 62 because she can't afford to retire. Your mom still has her home. That's huge. After we hung up, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that I'd made the right call. Anger at Gerald for the trail of destruction he'd left. Sadness for all the people he'd hurt. And a renewed appreciation for Patricia, who'd seen through Gerald's facade immediately and protected my mother with such fierce efficiency. 3 months after Gerald's sentencing hearing, where he received 18 years in federal prison, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten, on my mother's familiar lavender stationery. Dear Nathan, I've been trying to figure out what to say to you for months now. I've started this letter a dozen times and thrown it away each time because nothing felt adequate. But I realized I'm never going to find perfect words, so these imperfect ones will have to do. You were right about everything. About Gerald, about Patricia, about me needing to protect myself. You saw clearly what I refused to see because I was so desperate to not be alone that I ignored every warning sign. I chose a stranger's family over my own grandson because it was easier than admitting I'd made a mistake. I treated Lucas terribly. I treated you terribly. And when my world fell apart, you still helped me. You hired Patricia even though I didn't deserve your help. You protected me even after I'd pushed you away. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve the chance to ask for it. But I want you to know that I see what I did. I understand what I lost. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If Lucas ever wants to see me again, I would be honored. But I understand if that door is closed. I closed it myself. I love you. I love him. I forgot that for a while, but I never stopped. Mom, I read the letter 3 times. Then I showed it to Lucas. What do you think? I asked him. He was 11 now, taller and more serious than he'd been that Christmas morning. He read the letter carefully, his lips moving slightly as he worked through the cursive handwriting. Does she mean it? He asked finally. I think so. But how do we know she won't do it again? Change her mind and pick someone else over us? Gosh, it killed me that my son had to think this way. That he'd learned at such a young age that love could be conditional, that family could fail you. We don't know, I said honestly. We can't know for sure. But I think she understands what she did wrong. And I think she wants to try to fix it. Do you want to see her? I considered the question. Did I? Part of me was still angry, still hurt by the months of rejection. But another part remembered the mother who'd packed my lunches with little notes, who'd sat through every school play, who'd held me when Sarah died. I think I do, I said. But only if you're comfortable with it. This is your choice too. Lucas thought about it for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. Maybe we could try. But just like, coffee or something first. Not a whole big thing. Smart kid. We met at a coffee shop on neutral ground. Mom was already there when we arrived, sitting at a corner table, looking smaller somehow than I remembered. She'd lost weight, and there were new lines around her eyes. When she saw Lucas, her face crumpled, but she held it together. "Hi, Grandma," Lucas said quietly. "Hi, sweetheart." Her voice shook. "Thank you for coming." We sat down, the initial minutes awkward and stilted. But gradually, tentatively, we started talking. Not about Gerald or the trial or any of the heavy stuff. Just small talk about school and Lucas's soccer team and Mom's new part-time job at the library. It wasn't perfect. There were long pauses and careful word choices. But it was something. A beginning, fragile as new ice. As we were leaving, Mom pulled me aside. "I know this doesn't fix anything. I know I have years of proving myself ahead of me. But Nathan, I want you to know, hiring Patricia, stopping me from destroying myself financially, that was the most loving thing anyone has ever done for me. Even when I couldn't see it, even when I fought you, you were protecting me. You were being the parent. You're still my mom," I said simply. "I'm going to try to deserve that again." Over the following year, she did try. Slowly, carefully, she rebuilt the bridge she'd burned. Weekly coffee dates with Lucas turned into Saturday afternoon visits. She came to his soccer games and school concerts. She remembered his birthday and showed up with thoughtful gifts, not expensive ones. She also started therapy, working through why she'd been so desperate for companionship that she'd ignored massive red flags. She joined a support group for people who'd been defrauded by romantic partners. She volunteered at a women's shelter, helping others recognize the warning signs she'd missed. One afternoon, about 18 months after that first coffee shop meeting, Mom asked if she could talk to me alone. We sat in her living room, the same room where I'd played with action figures as a kid, where she taught me to tie my shoes, where Dad had read the newspaper every evening before he died. "I need to tell you something," she said. "About why I was so vulnerable to Gerald in the first place." I waited. "After your father died, I became terrified of being alone. Not just lonely, terrified. I threw myself into raising you because that gave me purpose. But once you graduated college, once you got married and started your own life, I felt like I was disappearing. Like I didn't matter anymore. Mom, you've always mattered. I know that now. But at the time, I felt invisible. Then Sarah died, and I had purpose again, helping with Lucas, being needed. But even that was temporary. You were figuring out single parenthood, getting stronger, needing me less. And that scared me." She took a shaky breath. "When I met Gerald, he made me feel seen again. He was charming and attentive, and he made me the center of his world. Or at least, he made me think I was. I didn't want to look too closely at the red flags because I was so grateful to feel important to someone. You were always important to us. But I couldn't see that. I was so focused on what I'd lost, your father, my youth, my sense of purpose, that I couldn't appreciate what I still had. A son who loved me. A grandson who adored me. I traded something real for something shiny and fake because the fake thing told me what I wanted to hear." Tears were streaming down her face now. "And the worst part is, I almost dragged you down with me. If you'd given me that money, if you'd co-signed those loans, Gerald would have bled you dry too. You'd have lost your house, Lucas's college fund, everything. And I was so deep in denial that I would have let it happen." I moved to sit beside her, putting my arm around her shoulders. "But I didn't let it happen. And you're okay now. Because you were strong enough to say no. Because you loved me enough to save me from myself, even when I hated you for it." She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "I need you to know, I don't blame you for keeping Lucas away during those months. You were protecting him. That's what a good parent does. You're a good parent too, Mom. You made a mistake. We all make mistakes. Not like that. Not mistakes that hurt children." She wiped her eyes. "Lucas asked me something last week. He asked if I wished I could go back and change what I did at Christmas. You know what I told him?" I shook my head. I told him yes, I wish I could change it. But I also told him that sometimes we need to break things completely before we can rebuild them properly. The relationship I have with both of you now is honest. It's based on me showing up consistently, not just when it's convenient. That's stronger than what we had before, even if it was harder to get here." Lucas had asked her that? I made a mental note to talk to him about it later. "He's a thoughtful kid," I said. "He's like Sarah. Sharp and kind at the same time." Mom smiled through her tears. "I miss her. I know you do too. Every day." She would have seen through Gerald immediately. She would have pulled me aside at the wedding and told me exactly what he was. Probably, I admitted. Sarah didn't believe in polite silence when someone she loved was making a bad choice. I wish I'd listened to the warnings I did get. Derek tried to tell me. Even Patricia, when you first hired her, she said something that stuck with me. She said, love shouldn't cost you everything. But I wasn't ready to hear it. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, I could hear kids playing in the neighborhood, their laughter carrying through the open window. Normal, everyday sounds that felt precious after the chaos of the past 2 years. There's something else, Mom said eventually. I got a letter from Gerald. My whole body tensed. What did it say? He wants me to visit him. Says he's sorry, that he never meant to hurt me, that he still loves me. She laughed bitterly. 23 lines of manipulation disguised as an apology. Are you going to go? No. I wrote back once, telling him I forgave him but that I was moving forward with my life. I didn't hear from him for 2 months. Then I got this new letter, and suddenly the apology was gone. Now he's angry. Saying I abandoned him, that I'm heartless, that I owe him loyalty. That's classic manipulation. I know. Patricia warned me this would happen. She said Gerald would cycle through different tactics trying to get what he wants. But I'm not engaging anymore. I had the prison put a block on his letters. I felt a surge of pride. 6 months ago, my mother would have been racked with guilt over cutting off contact. Now she was setting boundaries without second-guessing herself. I'm proud of you, I said. Don't be. I'm just finally doing what I should have done a long time ago, protecting myself and the people I love. Gerald's daughter Amanda sent one last venomous message about a year after the trial, blaming me for her father's imprisonment and her family's financial ruin. The message was long and rambling, filled with accusations and threats. She claimed I'd manipulated my mother against Gerald, that I'd conspired with Patricia to destroy an innocent man, that I'd enjoy watching her children suffer. I blocked her number and didn't respond. Their family's problems weren't my responsibility, and I was done letting other people's poor choices create guilt in me. But the message bothered me more than I wanted to admit. That night, I talked to Lucas about it. Amanda sent me a pretty mean message, I said. Blaming me for everything that happened with Gerald. Lucas looked up from his homework. That's dumb. Gerald did crimes. You didn't make him do crimes. I know. But sometimes when people are hurting, they need someone to blame. It's easier than accepting that someone they love did something terrible. Is that what Grandma did? When she got mad at you for not giving her money? Sort of. She wanted to believe that Gerald was innocent, so anyone who suggested otherwise became the enemy. Lucas chewed on his pencil, thinking. But she doesn't think that anymore, right? No. Once she saw all the evidence, she couldn't deny it anymore. Do you think Amanda will figure it out too? I considered that. Maybe. Or maybe she'll spend the rest of her life blaming everyone except her father. People deal with hard truths in different ways. That seems sad. Like she's hurting herself more than anyone else. Out of the mouths of children. Lucas had nailed it in one sentence. Amanda's refusal to accept reality was only harming herself, trapping her in bitterness and anger while the rest of us moved forward. You're absolutely right, I said. And that's why we don't respond to messages like that. We can't control how other people process their pain, but we don't have to let it become our pain too. Patricia became a friend. She and I occasionally met for lunch, and she'd update me on other cases she was working on, other families she was protecting from financial predators. She told me that my mother had sent her a fruit basket every Christmas since the trial, thanking her for saving her life. She's one of the lucky ones, Patricia said during one of our lunches. Most people in her situation lose everything. You saw the warning signs early enough to make a difference. I wasn't sure I was doing the right thing at the time, I admitted. You were doing the loving thing. That's not always the same as the easy thing or the popular thing. But it's what matters. How do you do this job? I asked. Deal with people like Gerald all the time? Patricia took a sip of her tea. Because for every Gerald, there's a person like your mother who deserves protection. People make bad choices when they're lonely or scared or desperate. My job isn't to judge them for those choices. It's to make sure those choices don't destroy them completely. Do they always listen? No. Some people are too proud or too stubborn or too deep in denial. I've had clients refuse my help and end up bankrupt or worse. But the ones who do listen, the ones who let me help them, they're why I keep doing this. She paused, her expression growing serious. Your mother talks about you all the time, you know. About how you saved her even when she didn't want to be saved. She's building a life for herself now. Working, volunteering, reconnecting with old friends she'd pushed away during the Gerald years. She's lonely sometimes, but she's not desperate anymore. That's progress. I thought about that conversation a lot over the following months. About the difference between loneliness and desperation, between wanting companionship and needing it so badly you'll accept anything. Mom was learning to be comfortable with herself again, to find value in her own company. It was a hard lesson to learn at 63, but she was learning it. Lucas is 13 now. He has a good relationship with his grandmother, built on honesty and realistic expectations. She knows she broke his trust, and she spent years earning it back. He's forgiven her, but he's also learned valuable lessons about boundaries and self-worth. Last month, he asked me about relationships. Not dating specifically, but about how you know when someone really cares about you. It's not just about what they say, I told him. It's about what they do. Words are easy. Actions take effort. Like how you helped grandma even when she was mad at you? Exactly like that. Real love sometimes means doing the hard thing instead of the comfortable thing. He nodded slowly. And like how grandma shows up to my games now, even when it's raining or cold? Yes. She's showing you through her actions that you matter to her. That's worth more than any apology. Sometimes I think about that Christmas morning, about walking away from my mother's door with gingerbread man and a heartbroken son. It would have been so easy to respond to her crisis calls with either vindictive satisfaction or enabling rescue. Instead, I tried to find a middle path, protecting her while refusing to subsidize the fantasy she'd built with Gerald. I didn't save their marriage or keep Gerald out of prison. I didn't even save my relationship with my mother, she had to do that work herself. What I did was refuse to let her self-destruct, even when she was determined to do exactly that. People ask me sometimes if I regret being harsh with her during that period. The answer is no. Love isn't just about comfort and support. Sometimes it's about standing firm and saying, I won't help you hurt yourself. Sometimes it's about letting people face consequences while ensuring those consequences don't destroy them entirely. The gingerbread men we made that Christmas, the ones we never got to share at the brunch, became a tradition. Every year now, Lucas and I bake them together on Christmas Eve. Sometimes my mother joins us, rolling dough and decorating cookies alongside her grandson. The first time she came, she cried when she saw the gingerbread men. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry I sent you away that day. We know, Mom, I said gently. And we're here now. That's what matters. The second year of our renewed tradition, something unexpected happened. Lucas had invited his grandmother without telling me first. I came home from work to find them both in the kitchen, flour dusted across the counter, Christmas music playing softly from my phone. Papa. Lucas grinned, completely unbothered by the surprise. Grandma's teaching me her secret ingredient for the icing. My mother looked up nervously, gauging my reaction. I hope this is okay. Lucas called and asked if I wanted to help this year. I can leave if. Stay, I interrupted. Of course, stay. The relief on her face was profound. We spent the next 3 hours baking, laughing when Lucas accidentally added salt instead of sugar to one batch, taking silly photos with frosting on our noses. It felt normal. Not forced or performative, just genuinely normal. Later, after Lucas had gone to bed and Mom was preparing to leave, she lingered at the door. Can I tell you something? She asked. Always. When I was with Gerald, I stopped doing things like this. Baking, crafting, the little traditions I'd built with you over the years. He thought they were silly. Said I was living in the past instead of embracing our new life together. She twisted her car keys in her hands. I didn't even realize I'd given them up until tonight. Until I was standing in your kitchen again, doing something that used to bring me joy. He isolated you, I said quietly. Not with locks and chains. With subtle comments and gentle discouragement. It was so gradual I didn't notice. Friends I'd had for decades suddenly seemed negative or draining according to him. Hobbies I loved became wastes of time. Even you and Lucas, he never said outright that I shouldn't see you, but there was always something more important. Amanda's kids' recital. His golf tournament. A weekend trip he'd already booked without asking me. I'd noticed some of this at the time but hadn't connected the dots. Classic isolation tactics, designed to make her dependent solely on him. That's over now, I said. Because you didn't let him complete the process. If I'd mortgaged my house, if I'd drained my accounts for his legal defense, I'd have nothing left. No home, no independence, no choice but to cling to whatever scraps he offered from prison. She met my eyes. You saw what he was doing before I was too far gone. That takes wisdom, Nathan. And courage. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by cooling gingerbread men and thought about trajectories. How my mother's life could have gone so differently if I'd made different choices. If I'd given her the money out of guilt or obligation. If I'd decided her decisions were hers to make and washed my hands of the consequences. She'd be destitute now. Possibly homeless. Definitely broken in ways that might never heal. Instead, she was rebuilding. Slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. The following spring, something happened that tested everything we'd reconstructed. My mother had a health scare, a suspicious mammogram that required a biopsy. She called me from the doctor's office, her voice shaking. They found something. It might be nothing, but they want to do more tests. I'm coming to get you, I said immediately. Where are you? Nathan, you're at work. I can drive myself home. Mom, I'm coming to get you. Text me the address. I left the office, drove to the medical building, and found her sitting in her car in the parking lot, crying silently. When she saw me, she got out and let me hold her while she sobbed. I'm scared, she admitted. And I have nobody to call except you. All those friends Gerald convinced me to drop, I burned those bridges. They're not coming back. You have me. And Lucas. And Patricia's become a friend, hasn't she? She sent me a card on the anniversary of my divorce being finalized. Called it my Independence Day. A watery laugh. But Nathan, this is too much to put on you. You've already done so much. This is what family does, Mom. We show up. Remember? The biopsy came back benign, thank God. But the scare prompted my mother to start rebuilding her social network. She joined a book club at the library where she worked. Started attending a weekly yoga class. Reconnected with her sister in Montana, a relationship that had deteriorated during the Gerald years. Her sister, my Aunt Carol, called me after their first conversation in 18 months. I don't know what you did, Carol said, but you got my sister back. The real one, not the stranger who married that con artist. I just refused to let her destroy herself. That's more than most people would do. I tried talking to her about Gerald before the wedding. She stopped returning my calls, Carol sighed. I'm ashamed I gave up on her. You didn't give up. You just didn't know how to help. Neither did you, but you figured it out anyway. That conversation stayed with me. How many people had tried to warn my mother about Gerald? How many had she pushed away? And yet somehow, through sheer stubbornness or luck or maybe just timing, my intervention had worked where others had failed. Or maybe it worked because I hadn't tried to control her choices. I'd protected her assets, given her a good lawyer, and then stepped back. Let her see the evidence for herself. Let her make the decision to file for divorce when she was ready. I built a safety net without trying to drag her into it. Lucas started high school the fall he turned 14. My mother showed up to his first day, taking photos on the front steps like any proud grandmother. She'd missed his middle school graduation while wrapped up in Gerald's world. Missing this milestone would have been unthinkable now. You look so grown up, she told him, adjusting his backpack straps. Grandma, I'm fine, he protested, but he was smiling. Let me fuss. I have years of fussing to make up for. Watching them together, easy and natural with each other, I felt Sarah's absence acutely. She should have been here for this. Should have seen our son growing into such a thoughtful, resilient young man. But maybe, in some way, her influence was here. The way I'd handled the situation with my mother, standing firm on principles, protecting the vulnerable, refusing easy answers, those were all things Sarah had taught me. That evening, Lucas asked me something that caught me off guard. Do you think Grandma would have come back if Gerald hadn't gotten arrested? I considered the question carefully. I don't know. Maybe eventually, but it might have taken much longer. Sometimes people need a crisis to shake them out of denial. But you created the crisis, kind of. By hiring Patricia and not giving her money. I prevented a worse crisis. There's a difference. He nodded slowly. My friend Ryan's parents are getting divorced. His dad cheated, and Ryan's really mad at his mom for staying as long as she did. He doesn't understand why she didn't just leave. It's complicated when you love someone. You want to believe the best of them, even when the evidence says otherwise. Like Grandma with Gerald. Exactly like that. Your friend's mom probably had her reasons for staying. Fear, financial dependence, hope that things would change. The human heart doesn't follow logic. Is that why you didn't just cut Grandma off completely? Because hearts don't follow logic? Smart, perceptive kid. Partly. But also because I knew who she really was, underneath the bad decisions. I remembered the grandmother who used to take you to the park every Sunday, who made your favorite cookies when you were sad. That person was still in there. She just needed help finding her way back. Lucas was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm glad you didn't give up on her. Me too, buddy. Me too. My mother is okay now. Not perfect, not unchanged, but okay. She lives modestly in her paid-off house, works a job she enjoys, and spends Sunday afternoons with her grandson. She's learned to be alone without being desperate, to value herself without needing external validation. She's also become an advocate. She speaks at community centers and churches about financial abuse in relationships, about the warning signs she missed, about how desperation can make you blind to danger. She's helped at least 3 women that I know of recognize similar patterns in their own relationships and get out before it was too late. This is my penance, she told me once. Helping other people avoid the mistakes I made. It's not penance, I corrected her. It's purpose. There's a difference. And me? I learned that I could set boundaries with the people I love without losing myself in the process. That protecting someone sometimes means protecting them from their own worst impulses. That family isn't about blind loyalty, it's about showing up honestly, even when honesty is painful. Gerald is still in prison. He'll be there for at least another 14 years. Brittany, the secretary, took a plea deal and got probation. Amanda moved out of state and changed her last name. The money is gone, paid in restitution to Hartwell Manufacturing's victims and to cover legal fees. But my mother is free. She's rebuilding. And Lucas has his grandmother back, wiser and humbler than before. That Christmas brunch turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Not because of the rejection, that still stings when I think about it, but because it forced a reckoning that was probably overdue. It stripped away the pretense and left only the truth, that real family shows up for the hard stuff, not just the celebrations. That love sometimes looks like saying no. That protecting someone's future matters more than preserving their pride. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is refusing to participate in their destruction, even when they beg you to. Even when they hate you for it. Even when it would be easier to just give them what they want and walk away. I think Sarah would be proud of the choice I made. I hope Lucas will understand it when he's older and facing his own complicated decisions about family and loyalty. And my mother? She tells me now that I saved her life. I don't know if that's true. But I know I tried to love her well, even when she made it hard. That has to count for something. A final thought. In our hardest moments, when the people we love most seem determined to walk paths that will hurt them, we face an impossible choice. Do we support them blindly, or do we stand in their way? The answer isn't always clear, and there's no formula that works for every situation. But I've learned that real love isn't measured by how comfortable we make someone feel, it's measured by how willing we are to endure their anger and disappointment for the sake of their well-being. The people who truly care about you will tell you the truth even when you don't want to hear it, set boundaries even when it strains the relationship, and protect you even from yourself. That kind of love is rare and painful and absolutely essential. If you're lucky enough to have someone in your life who loves you that way, hold on to them. And if you have the chance to be that person for someone else, take it. The short-term cost is high, but the long-term reward, a relationship built on honesty, respect, and genuine care, is worth everything.